I feel bad for not being able to review Sable when it dropped last September. Exam season and the holidays happened back to back and kept me from working in the review for over 2 months. But, new year, new opportunities, and I made sure to put Sable at the top of my list for 2022. After playing it through, I can say that Sable is the best coming-of-age story I've experienced. Sable is a 2021 exploration game developed by Shedworks and published by Raw Fury. You play as the titular Sable, a young woman making the transition from child to adult. But first, she must participate in the gliding. The gliding is the journey that every child in the land of Midden must embark before they choose a role in society as an adult. Each person wears a mask that signifies their job and station to everyone else. For example, instead of wearing a cop badge, you wear a cop mask. The goal of a glider, an adolescent going through their gliding, is to meet as many people as possible and curry favors. In doing so, the glider receives badges as rewards. If a glider can collect 3 of any type of badge, they can take those badges to a mask maker in any town, who can then forge a mask based on that type of badge. At the end of the glider chooses from the masks they have collected, and their choice determines a role in society for the rest of their lives. Peel back the mysticism, and the gliding is a metaphor for going to college, or trade school, or that thing that Amish teenagers do where they experience the modern world's delights before going back to the farm. It's a big world out there, so how is Sable gonna manage? As far as video game characters go, she can do the basics: run and climb. Both actions cost stamina, signified by the white diamond that appears on screen. Use up all of Sable's stamina, and she needs to take a breather to let the meter fully recover. Before she embarks on the gliding, Sable needs to do some prep work in her village. First thing she needs is a gliding stone. Sable has to take a stone to a nearby temple and imbue it with energy. This stone will then create a bubble around Sable that will slow her descent. When she completes her gliding, Sable will have to give up the gliding stone. Just like how the gliding is a metaphor for growing up, the gliding stone symbolizes a safety net that society provides children before they get legally recognized as adults and take full responsibility for their actions. To get around the world, Sable is also going to need a bike. The bike has 2 modes: a strafe mode that allows for precise but slow movement, and a speed mode that allows for acceleration at the cost of precision. Before the tribe can entrust Sable with her own bike, she's got to use a loaner to get the parts to build it.
Hey, yo! Bring around the loaner. The loaner? The loaner?
Yeah, I did this joke already in the preview video. Once Sable gets all of the parts for the bike, she visits her tribe's machinist to assemble it. Not too hard to pull off. Hit the action button at every interact prompt and the bike is ready. Like everything else in the game, there's a mystical aura attached to the bike and its bond with the glider. Each bike has a name, and ours is called Simone. Don't think I need to get too navel-gazy about what getting a set of wheels symbolizes. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what it feels like to get a car once they've got a driver's license. Unless they're one of those Amish kids who missed out on Rumspringa. The last thing Sable needs to do before setting off on her gliding is to go to the nearby temple and acquire a new mask. The giant face that Sable was staring at when the game began splits open to reveal an even bigger room behind it. When I did my preview video on Sable and Lake last year, I likened Sable to Journey and Breath of the Wild, but there are some AAA Western titles I'd like to compare against Sable, namely the Uncharted games and Horizon Zero Dawn. While the open-world sandbox feels like Breath of the Wild or Death Stranding, the temples you can find in the world can feel like some of the large-scale temple puzzles you'd find in an Uncharted game. Both titles feature huge, imposing statues that provide visual feedback when the player solves one piece of the entire puzzle. When you solve the whole thing in both games, you feel it in how the room shakes from all the moving parts. Besides the ancient temples, Sable can also discover crashed ships scattered across the open world. These ships provide smaller challenges that are more similar to the shrines in Breath of the Wild. Most of the puzzles and ships require Sable to hunt down batteries to power up a door or mechanism to progress. Sable's aesthetics go for a more impressionistic style, like Journey. The simplified forms and shapes allow the player to fill in the blanks of what they're looking at. A mountain, a plant, a crashed ship. Eventually, you begin to develop a type of reading comprehension over what flat-shaded blob you're looking at in the distance.
You get used to it. I don't even see the code. All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead.
I described Sable earlier as a coming-of-age story, and that's why I decided to compare it with Horizon Zero Dawn. The thing is, I haven't completed Horizon, so I can't do a bullet point kind of comparison with both games, but I played enough of the game to get an understanding of how its approach to storytelling and presentation differs from Sable. Let's start with the similarities. Sable and HCD both feature female leads undergoing rites of passage to become adults in their societies. Both games feature a setting where civilization has reset, and culture has taken on aspects of early tribal systems. Basically, everyone looks like some hodgepodge of various indigenous cultures. Horizon's Nora tribe looks like a kitbash of Native Americans and Vikings, with just a dash of Eastern aesthetics here and there. I'm not sure where Sable draws its inspiration from, but the importance that masks carry in that game's culture definitely evokes a low-tech type of civilization. I'm definitely biased, but I think Sable's impressionistic approach makes it easier to buy into the post-apocalyptic setting over HCD. There's nothing outright wrong with Horizon's look, I just think that photorealistic graphics carry a shelf life, but something stylized like Sable will never lose its charm. Anyways, although both games feature civilizations where culture has reset and became spiritualistic, they still respect the importance of the technology of the old world. And that's where the similarities end. Where Aloy in Horizon is a social pariah and participates in the proving to earn her place in the Nora tribe, Sable is loved and cherished by the Ibexi people. They take great pains to guide Sable with kid gloves at the start of the game, so that she has the best experience possible when she begins her gliding. Horizon's story seems to focus squarely on Aloy's shoulders. There are hints that there's more to her past than being a social outcast. We're always aware of Aloy's thoughts as the game progresses, whether we like it or not.
Rost! Down here! Rost! Rost! He won't hear me. Some kind of cave? Looks tight, but I can get through. Ross said never go in places like this.
Where is he? 2 days before the proving and he goes off without me? He wouldn't do that. He said we'd go hunting this morning. Why isn't he here? Where's he gone to? Faster, come on! Faster, stop dragging! I've gotta keep going!
The dialogue options in Horizon are upfront about telling the player that one choice will emphasize Aloy's courage, while another choice emphasizes her compassion. Sable seems to keep things closer to its chest. Sure, we know Sable is a girl excited and scared to go off on her gliding. We also have the ability to choose Sable's responses, but there's no utilitarian purpose underneath those choices. You choose with your gut in Sable, not with your stats in mind. That's really the best way to sum up both games' priorities. Horizon wants to make sure you get every bit of info on a moment-to-moment basis. Aloy can activate detective vision to discover interactable objects, tag hostile creatures, or to track their patrol routes. Look at the top of the screen, and the compass shows you which type of fauna is in a given direction and the heading for the next objective. Sable doesn't want to hand you that information. You gotta suss it out yourself. One of the tools that the Ibexi gives Sable before she heads off is a compass. Holding left bumper causes Sable to pull out the compass, which displays as a circular overlay around Sable. This overlay always indicates the heading for north and displays a marker for the currently active quest as well as any waypoints that the player sets down either on the map or with the viewfinder. The one change I noticed coming from Sable's demo to its final release build is that the compass circle no longer casts a shadow on the world. I actually like that effect, and I wish there was an option I could toggle in the settings. Pressing right bumper will cause Sable to pull out a spyglass and go into viewfinder mode. Sable can move a cursor fixed onto the world's topology to set markers. I made a complaint in my preview video that the viewfinder felt awkward to control. The camera feels really sluggish because the cursor is restricted to the elevation of the terrain. I think it would have been better if it operated on a free camera, like the viewfinder modes in Death Stranding or Breath of the Wild, but there might be complications in the coding that cause that restriction. I'm no coder, so I can't say for sure, but I do know that I almost always go into the map screen to set my waypoints instead of using the spyglass. I feel like I only touched on Sable's similarities to Breath of the Wild earlier. It's pretty obvious that Breath of the Wild was an influence once you gain control over Sable. She can climb virtually any surface and is held back only by her stamina meter. She has an ability to slow her fall and prevent from taking damage. But the similarities exist beyond Sable herself. The starting areas for both games are both set in microcosms of their larger environments. The Abexi camp is surrounded on all corners by high desert walls. The only way out of that area is through a passage framed by 2 colossal statues. When Link wakes up from cryosleep, he has to go through a series of tutorials. Once he's shown his competence over all of the basic kit in the game, he acquires a hang glider that slows his fall. Link can then jump off the Great Plateau and make his way through Hyrule proper. Like Sable, Link can climb virtually any surface and is held back only by the limits of his stamina. However, Link can upgrade his stamina meter by hunting down spirit orbs. Once Link has enough spirit orbs, he can turn them in to increase either his health or his stamina. The other major collectible in Breath of the Wild is a Korok seed. There are Koroks hiding in every nook and cranny in the game. When Link finds a Korok, they grant him a seed, which Link can turn in to increase his carrying capacity for his weapons or shields. Sable took inspiration from those 2 concepts and brought us chum eggs. Chums are floating, snake-like animals that hide in nooks and crannies as well as high points in the terrain. They exist to encourage Sable to climb every mountain and turn over every rock. Bring enough chum eggs to the Chum Queen, and she'll shed a chum tear that will expand Sable's stamina. Thing is, you can go through most of the game without turning in a single chum egg. That's what happened to me. Most of the terrain is designed to allow a player with the most basic stamina meter to manage. The only area that caused me to turn back was the Badlands, or what I called the Bone Zone. Everything is held up by a series of pillars connected by giant bones of dead animals. I'm pretty sure the waste could have given me problems as well if I hadn't found a Chum Queen by then. So now that I've set up the mechanics and structure of the game, what's it like to play Sable? It's the second most chill game I've ever played. Your only real objective is to collect badges to create masks, but you don't need to collect every mask in the game. Once the game feels like you've acquired enough masks, you get a message from your tribe telling you that they've returned to their homeland and you can visit them to initiate the endgame. But we're not in any hurry, so why not make the most of our gliding? Sable pulls off having each zone look visually distinct while still maintaining an overall aesthetic. This extends to the various people that you encounter in Midden. Masks come in all shapes and sizes. Some masks denote your affiliation with a tribe. Some denote your role in society, official or unofficial. Just like how you develop a way to read the landscape in Sable, you learn how to read the people living in that landscape. Everyone understands the importance of the gliding and what it means as a glider. They also know that gliders practically have all the time in the world, so they're the best source of free labor. It's just like being an intern at college. There's no combat in Sable, but that doesn't mean there isn't any sense of danger. Some quests require you to retrieve materials from bug nests. One type of bug seemed to be hazardous, but I never found out because I stumbled upon the fruit that distracted them and snuck by without a scratch. The most violent thing I ever did in Sable was Goomba stomp on some bugs' backs to get them to poop. And you thought your job was crappy. Some areas are full-on wastelands, and you can feel the desolation in the air. There are recurring characters that Sable can meet during her gliding. She may even get caught up in some big city drama. And when you do get to that city, it's quite the sight to behold when all you've seen so far are tents and huts. Besides completing my gliding, I'd found another objective that I wanted to complete. There are crashed ships all over the land, and some of these ships contain coded messages that relate to an even larger ship called the Whale. Inside the Whale was a unique outfit and bike parts. It's kind of like the endgame armor you could unlock in most Assassin's Creed games, where you had to complete the challenges in other dungeons to open up one part of the lock. Took me a while, but the drip was worth it. Unfortunately, Sable's got some serious technical issues that hold it back from being truly great. There's an option in the game to adjust the frame rate to go as low as 24 FPS and all the way up to uncapped. I keep it low because I love the way the choppy style looks. It's like the game is animating solely on keyframes. But when there's too many objects on screen for the game to draw, everything slows down to single frames and kills the overall mood. I feel like I'm playing Half-Life on my family's old HP way back when. I tried dialing back my quality settings and lowering the draw distance, but it didn't seem to make that much of a difference. The other major issue I had was when I initiated the endgame. I returned to my village and all of the villagers had gathered around to talk to me, but all of their dialogue was exactly the same as when I had left them. I had to quit the game and load my save again for the endgame to trigger properly, and then everyone reacted as if I had returned from my gliding. Also, one quest giver in the city wouldn't appear until I had completed another quest, but I had no idea that would happen until it happened. Other than that, there's also some indie jank in the form of collision issues. There are areas in the game where the collision is disjointed from the world's topology, so Sable would be climbing on invisible walls or standing on invisible platforms. Another weird little quirk was that when Sable reaches the top of a surface, the camera seems to bounce off the ground and pushes my view straight into the sky momentarily. I've also had moments where Sable got caught in some invisible topology, and the game's physics flung her out of it, and made her move way faster than she normally could, for a second or two. These little things aren't deal breakers for me, but the slowdown from the areas with denser geometry definitely are. I hope the devs can come in and find a way to make those sections run more smoothly. Because I like this game, and I'm glad it's a hit with everyone who plays it. But I know more people would love to get into the game if everything ran at a smoother pace. I streamed Sable to some friends just to show it off, and I sold one person on it through presentation alone. Please play Sable. It's usually $25 on Steam, and on sale it'll go for less than $20. The atmosphere is great, and I love how, at its core, it's a coming-of-age story that's open enough for anyone to immerse themselves in its world.